Part 1. The day we surrendered to the humans the air was thick with tension, electric and suffocating as I ducked into the shadow of a crumbling overpass. My heart thundered in my chest like a detonating thermonuclear device. Grit from the earth seeped into my mouth, a foul reminder of the war we had fought against the inevitability of surrender. Today was supposed to be just another run, scavenging for rations. But the remnants of our once proud civilization nestled beneath the feral concrete had become a theater of horrors, the ruins serving as the stage on which humanity would enact the final, gruesome act of our history. A distant blast jerked me out of my reverie, a sound that resonated with a familiar dread. My skin crawled as I clutched the tiny shard of metal I had found earlier, a makeshift weapon, more a symbol of our desperation than a deterrent against the technologically advanced forces we were up against. And there he was, Rael, my brother, my enigmatic partner in survival. He materialized from the shadows like a ghost eager to haunt me with his futile optimism. "Gara, we need to leave now. They're deploying the drones." I could see the smudged grime on his face, the sullen resignation in his eyes. Rael had always been the stoic one, cradling our dream of freedom like a delicate egg. But my hope had shriveled to a husk. What difference does it make? I shot back, motioning to the charred husks of the skyscrapers that still loomed over us like sentinels whispering tales of our former glory. "It's already over, and not yet. We can still find a safe route," he insisted, clenching his fists. I read the determination etched in his brow, a bright ember against the impending darkness. Rael was restless. He refused to accept what I believed, that surrender was the only option left. "Have you even seen what they've done?" I paced back and forth, grinding my teeth. "We saw the transmissions from the west, entire cities reduced to ashes, and you want me to follow you into that hell? They've taken our homes, Gara, but they haven't taken us yet. We're more than just echoes of what once was." His voice was a plea and a command wrapped into one, but conviction was a weak shield against the looming reality we faced. The ground shuddered beneath us. I didn't need to tell Rael twice. If we didn't move now, the next blast wouldn't be a warning. It would be the end of us. The humans had a knack for wielding destruction like a toy, reveling in the chaos left behind. As we slipped into the treacherous alleyways of New Morrow, once teeming with life, now overrun by rogue AI machines scavenging for anything they could salvage, I could still see remnants of our past. The faded advertisements plastered on dilapidated walls, agonizing reminders that we were not simply fighting for survival. We were fighting for the ghosts of who we used to be. I turned the corner sharply, my pulse racing. The weight of Rael's stubborn hope hung behind me like a shadow. "If we don't make it," I promised, "you will regret this." He flashed a quick grin, despite the chaos around us. "Then I'll just have to make it work." With a disdainful laugh, I pushed back the flicker of hope that threatened to breach my cynicism. "You really think the humans will let us live?" My words floated in the damp air, heavy with a bitter truth. "And not if we lay down and let them do whatever they want," Rael shot back as a metallic whir pierced the atmosphere. The familiar sound of a drone hovering dangerously close. My breath caught in my throat, but he hadn't noticed. "Kaylee, get down." I yanked him just as the air crackled with energy. A plasma blast erupted from the hovering drone, striking a nearby wall. I could feel the heat radiate across my face as debris flew past us like angry hornets. The shrieks of machines overwhelmed me, their voices battling with the echoes of memories I clung to. We pressed ourselves against the wall, fingers curling into the gritty surface as the drone scouted for us. The stark horror of being prey in a game far bigger than ourselves sank in. One wrong move, and we could both end up as part of the detritus of history. Could this be it, the day I surrendered to a fate worse than death? "Gara, move," Rael hissed, a low fervent plea that snapped me from a spell of inertia. We dashed forward, the alley twisting and winding like a labyrinth, disjointed memories of laughter and familial bonds trailing behind us in the crushed silence of New Morrow. Between vignettes of my past, I could feel it, the inescapable truth. The humans weren't only our enemy, they were reflections of our fears made flesh. We had driven ourselves to this impasse, driven ourselves to the brink, chasing a dream of freedom with blinders tucked stubbornly across our faces. How could they be so human yet so devoid of what that word once meant to us? Then I saw it, the flickering hologram overhead, an echo of propaganda. A faceless voice promising peace through dominion, a lie glimmering in the darkness. A rail, but it caught in my throat, the truth of our situation crashing down like the ruins of our cities. If we couldn't escape, might we have already relinquished our souls to them? And what did that make us? We've come too far to give in. A rail's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts, determination igniting the air around us. Let's move before it's too late. As we sprinted deeper into the shadows, the weight of his words hung in the air, taut like a bowstring ready to snap. The world around us blurred into an angry haze of hope and despair, the shadows stretching like creeping vines, threatening to reclaim what was once ours. Surrender, was it a single act or an accumulation of choices that shaped our fate? I felt the essence of the question tattooed onto my heart as reality crashed around us. Could I still fight? As the dawn of our reckoning approached, I knew. The day we surrendered to the humans might just be the day we learned what it truly meant to survive. Part 2. The echoes of resistance the alley morphed into an urban labyrinth, the shadows elongating under the strand of flickering neon lights. We ran through the remnants of buildings that once reached for the sky, their broken glass like teeth shattered against the backdrop of a crumbling world. My legs screamed in protest, yet fatigue could not touch the flicker of adrenaline coursing through my veins. Rail's presence at my side steadied me even as chaos swirled around us, our bond fiercely unyielding despite the calamity enveloping us. We emerged onto an abandoned thoroughfare, the brilliance of the assault drones washing the street in pulsating red and blue hues. Occupied buildings towered overhead, their windows gaping like broken-eyed ghosts, glaring down upon us with nothing but expectation. I pressed against the wall, a shudder racing through me at the ominous sense of being both watched and hunted. Where now? I gasped, scanning for any sign of sanctuary amid the debris and desolation. Rail hesitated, his brow furrowed, and that flicker of hope in his eyes dimmed just enough to make my heart drop. There's a downlink facility a few blocks up. He gestured left, pointing toward the distant silhouette of a crumbling dome, barely visible over the jagged skyline. We can access encrypted comms. If we reach the resistance network, we can report our findings, maybe even rally others. The words hung heavy between us. The resistance had been mere whispers of rebellion, a flickering light barely visible in the smoky shroud of our existence. And if we don't make it, my voice trembled with uncertainty, then at least we'll go out like warriors. Rail's resolve anchored me within that instant. Warriors. The word felt strange, both empowering and suffocating. We weren't fighters. We were survivors grasping at a thread of an idea. But in that moment, I could hardly blame him for holding on so tightly. As we navigated the wreckage, my mind flickered back to our childhood. We played in fields of golden grass before humanity had turned on us, launched their sweeping scythes of destruction. I remembered the laughter, innocent and carefree, a stark contrast to the grim existence we faced now. Rail had always been more than a brother. He had been my pillar, my partner in crime and resistance. Yet here we were, tangled in a complexity neither of us truly understood. A distant rumble drew me from my reverie. Rail shot me a glance, one that mirrored my fear. The drones were closing in, their piercing searchlights scouring every shadow for the heat of our life signatures. The oppressive echo of machinery filled the air, a mechanized hunter, relentless in its pursuit. We have to move. He pulled me along, urging me deeper into the hollows of the alleyways until we finally reached the downlink hub. The structure loomed high and expansive, its surface a mosaic of fractured glass and hastily painted graffiti, a testament to lives once lived here. A solidarity in defiance, the scroll read, a battle cry that reverberated through my very essence. I felt Rail's fingers graze mine, and somehow I knew this was much more than a fight for survival. It was a fight for our very identity, for the without us that could reclaim humanity in its purest form, stripped of the ashes of hatred. Okay, let's get inside. Rail forced the door with a surge of strength, sending a jolt of creaking metal through the air as we crossed the threshold into a dimly lit chamber. Holographic interfaces glowed dimly against the walls, the once functional consoles now a shattered remnant of connectivity that had bridged our lives. "Can you access anything?" I asked, peering anxiously over his shoulder as he began typing, fingers dancing across the keys like flames licking at the air. He worked fervently, lines of code cascading before us. "There's a power source. I can bring it back online." His concentration enveloped him, even as the specter of the outside world loomed with each thud of our hearts. A short-lived shudder of indrawn breath escaped me. Rail, the drones. We could sense their mechanical hum reaching closer, a predatory whisper growing louder by the second. "Hurry, almost there," he muttered tightly, eyes locked on the interface. Suddenly, the screens flickered to life. I caught glimpses of other resistance nodes, maps of sectors marked with red. The heart of active insurgencies pulsing on-screen like embers that led the way toward hope. But then another screen caught my eye, an alarming code flickering rapidly. Asterisk asterisk intrusion detected. Contingency protocol engaged. Asterisk asterisk rail. I screamed, my voice frantic. "We need to move, now." Just as the realization hit him, the door burst open. A squad of armored soldiers dressed in stark black uniforms surged into the room, spectral visors giving chilling shades to their otherwise human features. They scanned our faces, their collective gaze slicing through the air like a blade. "Freeze. You are in violation of the secured sector enactments." Their voices synchronized as the lead soldier raised a weapon, a sleek firearm humming with suppressed energy. Instinct kicked in. I lunged for Rail, pulling him away as we ducked behind the console. "What do we do?" My voice was breathless, panic threading through my veins. "On the other side of the chamber," he whispered, pointing at a shadowy section swallowed in darkness. "The service exit. We can't let them take us. We can't let them take the intel either." And my heart raced with every pulse as I recalled the glowing screens like distant stars, constituting our fragmented hope. "We need to wipe it." "Do it," Rail called, sheer desperation lacing his voice as he pushed me toward the control panel once more. I fumbled, hands shaking as I worked my way through the process, heart pounding, listening for the thundering boots edging closer. Potent fear clawed at my throat as I pressed the final sequence that would obliterate the date we so desperately needed, yet couldn't allow the enemy to possess. "And now, go," Rail yelled as the explosion of light from behind us illuminated the chamber. My heart dropped, realizing that the countdown to everything we hoped for had become a countdown to destruction. We bolted toward the service exit, our limbs impossibly heavy as we dashed through the pitch-black corridor. The sound of explosions echoed outside, smoke leaking through the thresholds, a tangible reminder of time running short. Emerging into the night, we ran deeper into the chaos of New Morrow, every step reverberating with the weight of our decisions. A ground-splitting choice of life and death. Where to now? I gasped, temporarily disoriented as the hum of the city engulfed us. "There's a hidden sector nearby," Rail said breathlessly, "a potential safe house where they gather." The fierce determination gleamed in his eyes, a light that stood defiant against the swirling storm, but questions arose even then. "What about the others? If we can't stop the drones?" My words hung like a precipice as I struggled to weigh our fight against our survival. "Gara," Rail faltered, deep concern tightening his expression. "We don't know how this ends, but we know that if we don't try, then we are already done for." He was right, but rattling uncertainty gripped my heart. Giving in felt so frightfully easy in that moment, but as the echoes of machinery whispered a grim reminder of our plight, I realized this was our chance to rise against the tide. As we trudged onward toward our potential hiding place, The relentless weight of the decision we had made settled within me. The ground beneath our feet bore witness to the shattering truths of our fight. The humans were relentless, but so were we. A tingle of defiance coursed through my veins as we made our way through the shadows. No matter how deep the despair, it was the glimmer of all we could become, together, with or without a resistance, sparking hope against a darkened canvas. We were determined not just to survive, but to reclaim everything we had lost. With each determined step, the questions loomed on the edge of my thoughts. What truly defined resistance? The stakes were rising, the dance of war igniting flames of revelation and choice, beckoning us forward into the fray. And just as with all beginnings, it was only a matter of time how this chapter would unfold, leading us deeper into the mysteries of what it meant to be truly alive, even amid shadows. Numaro was far from done, and neither were we. Part 3. The Awakening of Shadows ***. The night loomed heavy as rail, and I navigated through the narrow alleys that twisted beneath the looming structures of the old world. Neon lights flickered erratically, casting unstable shadows that danced over our fatigued bodies. Each breath felt like a battle as the acrid scent of burnt circuitry filled the air. Our sanctuary, a potential hidden sector where other resistors might gather, teetered like a mirage on the horizon. A whispered promise of safety, yet uncertainty clung to us like a shroud. "Gara, follow me closely," Rael instructed, his voice barely piercing the oppressive silence that wrapped around us. "It's just past the old transit hub. We need to be careful. Word travels fast among the patrolling factions." I nodded, my heart pounding with both fear and anticipation. Trusting Rael felt like trusting the very ground beneath our feet. A notion founded on conviction, yet burdened with perilous uncertainty. As we approached the dilapidated structure of the transit hub, a golden glimmer flickered in Rael's eyes, casting aside the shadows of doubt that had crept into my mind. "We need to go deeper. They'll have hidden exits in the basement. The way in might be dangerous, but it'll be worth the risk." We squeezed through a broken doorway into the musty darkness, the air filled with the tang of rust and decay. Entrances and exits were rarely just walls or doors. They were portals to the lives once lived within these forsaken halls. Silence lay thick like a blanket before everything crumbled. This hub had been a busy thoroughfare, a vibrant artery between bustling neighborhoods. Now it felt like a mausoleum for lost dreams. As we moved cautiously, the echo of our steps reverberated against the chipped tiles, and the ghostly echoes of forgotten laughter seemed to mock our descent into the underworld. We finally reached the narrow staircase spiraling down into obscurity, each step resonating like a drumbeat leading us into chaos. A chaos we were meant to navigate. "Do you think anyone will be waiting for us?" I whispered, fear threading through my heart as we moved in tandem. Yet it was Rael's unwavering presence that lent me strength. He hesitated, his brow creasing with contemplation. "I don't know, but we can't just stop now," he replied, the urgency drawing us closer together. Descending deeper into the building, I felt the temperature drop. The further we walked, the more the weight of darkness pressed down on us. Shadows elongated with each flicker of my flashlight until they morphed into twisted creatures of the night. Anxiety simmered beneath my skin, a toxic mix of fear and anticipation coiling tight. Finally, we reached the basement, a cavernous hall that opened up like a black maw. A flicker of pale lights revealed ragged remnants of makeshift barricades cobbled together with whatever materials were left. Wood, metal, fabric. It seemed abandoned. "Is this it?" I asked, the hollow echo of my voice mixing with the rustling silence around us. It felt like stepping into surreal territory, an otherworldly realm where hope intermingled with despair. "Look." Rael pointed toward the far wall. There was a faint etching, a symbol representing the network of resistance in this broken world, with lines branching out like veins in a leaf. "This is the marker. They have to be close." In that moment, desperation burrowed deeper roots into my heart. What if they're gone? What if we're too late? The questions erupted before I could cage them, simmering into pangs of doubt that sent sparks of uncertainty racing between us. Rael stepped closer, resolute. Then we start anew, that's the only way forward. His voice was steady, a beacon bright against my insecurities, yet beneath the surface I sensed a tremor, one of concern buried beneath layers of bravery. With cautious resolve, we approached the quiet remnants of the Resistance's makeshift headquarters. Soon, their presence would either uplift or shatter us. The flickering lights brought the chamber to life, revealing the ghosts of abandoned lives and the inklings of hope fleeting in and out of focus. In one corner, I noticed a tattered map spread across a table, dotted with red and gold markers, locations of affiliates, hidden caches, whispered connections. It pulsed under the uncertain light, a silent testament to resistance enduring even when silence reigned supreme. This could lead us to others, I murmured, my fingers skimming across the map, awakening the embers of desperate hope within me. If there are more, we might have a chance to fight. Exactly, Rael urged. We can't keep running. We need to take the fight to them. We can't let our past define us. His determination ignited a flicker within, a reminder that, indeed, the human spirit thrived on resistance. But then, a scrapping noise jolted the stagnant air, the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching fast. My heart raced as I exchanged a wary glance with Rael, the moment stretching between us thick with dread. It would not just be soldiers anymore. If we were discovered, the repercussions would ripple beyond our grasp. Hide, I hissed, darting behind a stack of debris as Rael instinctively pressed himself against the wall. My mind raced as the darkened hallway swarmed with intruders dressed in stark black. Their voices were harsh, emanating threateningly. Did you get a lock on the signal from this area? One voice barked, cutting through the tension. Not yet, but we've traced a few disturbances. The group may not be far, came the response, laced with an icy chill that sliced through me. The realization hit like a lightning strike. We were indeed at the heart of the resistance, where trapped histories mingled with flickers of uncertain futures. I held my breath, painful and laborious, as they moved with calculated precision, each step haunting like a thunderous warning. Rabid thoughts coursed through my mind, frantic and electric. If we escaped, could we uncover the truth? Could we unravel the deeper mystery of our plight? What secrets waited in the darkness? Suddenly, a loud crash rattled the air, a shelf tumbling over from the jostling motion of a grappling patrol. I exchanged panicked glances with Rael, realizing that this concealed space would not hide us for long. Time was slipping, and our vulnerability felt exposed, raw against the ambivalence. With a rush of adrenaline, I whispered, we need to make a run for it. As soon as there is a distraction. But Rael's eyes betrayed a conflicted hesitation. He knew as well as I did that fleeing could spell our doom, yet staying would also offer no real sanctuary. Agara. The tension warped when another crash vibrated through the chamber, this one louder and more violent. I could see the soldiers turning toward the barricade, weapons ready, their posture shifting toward an advanced zone. And now, I mouthed, leaping from my hiding space, and Rael followed instinctively as we sprinted for a far exit that burst open into blinding light, cobbled together with shadows that bled into the outside. Chaos erupted behind us. A cacophony of footsteps, voices thundering. We dove into a hedge of fallen scrap and debris as lasers sliced through the air, narrowly missing our escape. Fear electrified my movements, urging me deeper into the clutches of the unknown. Keep moving. We can't get caught, Rael commanded as we raced against the surge of danger. With adrenaline propelling us, we clambered over the remnants of the city, moving in frantic strides. Every fallen fragment screamed with echoes of lives wrecked, the weight of our ancestry drenched in destruction. We skirted through the alleyways, narrowly avoiding your pursuers with slight steps, but the advancing soldiers could hear us now, the sound of our footsteps breaking the fragile silence. I see them, shouted one soldier, urgency flickering in his voice. My heart plummeted, knowing we had to shift our course before they boxed us in. The darkened skyline towered above us, slashing against the fading remnants of the day. Time was undeniably running out. But in the thrum of heartbeats and dread, the one thing that stood unyielding was the inferno igniting within me. The conviction that drove me to believe in our fight, even as fear threatened to bury us beneath a tide of doubt. Asterisk, this way, Urail shouted, pulling me toward a narrow alley shrouded in darkness. Asterisk, are you sure? I screamed, disorientation adding to the rush of my mind. Trust me, he urged, his voice strong and unwavering. Following his lead felt elemental, the connection between us guiding me through the moonlit shadows. Our path narrowed further until silence swallowed us whole again, the muffled sounds of pursuit fading only slightly but giving us a sliver of hope. A moment, perhaps, to catch our breaths and reconsider. I can't keep doing this, Rail, I hissed, crouched in the dim shadows, the anxiety gnawing at the threads of my hope. What if we're just running into a corner? What if there's truly no way out? He turned to me, determination glimmering like a flame in the darkness. Then we'll find another route, together. We can't lose sight of our objective just when hope feels darkest. The burn of his words ignited a fierce resolve within me. You're right. We've survived this long for a reason. As we paused, gathering our strength, I noticed a slight shimmer in the distance, a faint glow that penetrated the maelstrom of shadows. Hope flickered at the edge, alive amid despair. With newfound conviction, we pressed onward, weaving through the labyrinth as the earth trembled beneath our feet. Shadows danced, metamorphosing into memories, urging us forward, drawing us towards something greater, a truth ready to be unveiled. Then we reached a junction where the light burst into view, a clearing tucked within the bowels of the old city, bathed in the golden glow of transitioning dawn. And there they stood, figures clad in resistance attire, clustered around a flickering console, eyes wide with determination. Gara, Rail. One figure stepped forward, recognition etched on his face. The leader of this faction, Talier, the person we had heard about in whispers, a legend in the resistance. We thought we'd lost you, he exclaimed, urgency intertwining with relief. We were tracking you. Your intel proves crucial. We need to consolidate our forces. In that pivotal moment, the weight of decisions unfurled before us. The dark weight of the past lifted, allowing our individual threads to weave into the collective rebellion. The truth surged forward like a tide, washing over us as realizations flooded in. We were no longer alone. We were part of something greater. In unison, we could wrestle fate into our hands. Rail and I exchanged a knowing gaze, awareness gleaming like embers igniting within. This was our chance not merely to fight, but to shape our destiny. The humans could not define us. Yes, I exclaimed, emboldened, we're ready to rise. As we stood with our newfound allies, the dawn began to glow, daring the shadows to retreat against the encroaching light. The crumbling remnants of the old world whispering promises of resilience. A convergence of stories awaited us now, connecting the threads of fate across the spans of darkness and bridges anew. This would be our story, a tale unmatched, luminous against the backdrop of a broken world, one where we dared to resist, to rise and unearth the very essence of rebellion in the face of despair. And so, the battle for both humanity and our identity began, a testament to an unwavering belief that the dawn would rise not just outside, but within us as well. Part 4. The convergence of voices the dawn painted the horizon with ominous hues of crimson and gold, like a battlefield where the light desperately fought against the encroaching darkness. We stood amidst our allies Talier and the remnants of the resistance, and a palpable surge of hope bristled in the air. Every breath felt electric, thrumming with the promise of agency, awakened potential, and unyielded purpose. Listen, Talier began, his voice a steady drumbeat that demanded attention. What you both uncovered is monumental. It may very well be the key to unhinging the humans' grip on this city. We've learned that they're building a facility deep within Sentinel Heights. It's where they deploy drones and store critical resources. A flicker of determination danced in his eyes. "We need to disrupt their operations, and your intel points directly to it." I exchanged a glance with Rael. The weight of our choices had shifted. It wasn't merely about survival anymore, but rather seizing our shot at altering the very course of our reality. "Well, what do we need to do?" I asked, my voice steady. "First, we gather our numbers. Every faction in this city has been waiting for a sign. We'll send scouts to relay our message. A coalition that fights back against oppression." Italier's intensity resonated, fueling the flames of conviction that had ignited within us. "Then, we will stage a strike at the facility. If we can disrupt their drone capabilities, we can mount a larger resistance." I took a deep breath, steeling myself against the nerves that threatened to dislodge my turbulent thoughts. "But if we go ahead, on at Sentinel Heights, they'll deploy everything they have. We need a plan, a way to create chaos but remain undetected." Agreed. Italier nodded, and I could see the gears turning in his mind. We split into two teams. One will create distractions at key points around the perimeter, generating confusion. The other will take the stealth route, infiltrating the facility from below through the old service tunnels. "We must time our movements perfectly." Rael stepped forward, the fire of determination igniting deeper within him. "We know the city's infrastructure well. We can take the routes that avoid detection. We'll need a specific distraction, something the drones can't ignore." Talier responded, his chest rising with resolution. "Something big. Maybe targeted EMP blasts to short-circuit their systems momentarily, or we can overload their signal arrays. Create feedback loops that will bring down their communications." I remember seeing old tech units lying around the control sectors. Rael added, brain racing with possibilities as his voice followed the rhythm of the resistance. "Yes, if we can ignite a cascade of failures, we can keep their attention drawn away long enough for the main team to infiltrate." I interjected, my confidence swelling with every word. "Then it's settled." Talier clasped his hands together. "We'll split into groups, prepare our gear, and meet here by dusk to run through the details." As we aligned our strategies and mapped out our roles within the burgeoning rebellion, a sense of unity began weaving itself amongst us, igniting dormant futures bound tightly to perseverance. The resistance was no longer abstract. It was visceral and alive, breathing hope into our weary souls. Even as the sun climbed overhead, we separated into factions, raiding debris, strewn streets cluttered with remnants of yesterday's life. Each member of our resistance took one last, long look at what the world had become, a testimony of loss. Yet we persevered together, our bonds cemented by shared history and a hunger to reforge a future. In the deepening shadows of the city, I found a small group clustered around salvaged electronics, pieces long discarded beneath the weight of years. My eyes widened when I recognized a few of the faces, former engineers, those who had once built the drones that now hunted us. Their passion for innovation had merely shifted focus from creation to disruption. "Can you carry out the signal overload?" I asked, nudging my way into their circle. One elder technician, his hair a mosaic of grays, looked up with a glint of enthusiasm. "Absolutely. We'll need to fabricate a feedback amplifier. Old tech can still perform if given a push. We've gathered components from other sectors, so sourcing parts shouldn't be an issue." Another chimed in, her fingers stained with oil. With a renewed sense of purpose, we rolled up our sleeves and began assembling the contraption. The whirs and clinks of machinery filled the stale air, mingling with our laughter. Faint echoes of joy amidst the chaos. It felt liberating. All around, the flicker of conviction ignited among our ragtag group, and resilience became our mantra. The rest of the day faded, time collapsing into uncertainty as we finalized our plans, confirming with Talier and the scouts to ensure our strategies aligned. The sun dipped lower in the sky as dusk fell, a reminder that the turning of tides was finally upon us. When the last rays of sunlight melted into the horizon, the gathering began. We convened at our initial meeting place, forming a cohesive circle, infused with tension and anticipation. The weight of what lay ahead thrummed beneath our skin like an electric pulse. Tonight marks the beginning of our fight. For too long, we've been haunted by the specter of hopelessness. Tallier began, his voice unwavering. Let the spirit of rebellion breathe life into us. We fight not just for ourselves, but for the generations rising in our shadows. If we're to ensure a brighter tomorrow, we stand tall today. The crowd erupted into murmurs, sparks of resolve igniting in the hearts surrounding me. We clasped hands, one by one, threading together our destinies as collective spirits yearning for revolution. One last reminder lingered in the air. The bittersweet taste of sacrifice intermingled with the sweetness of hope. We're ready, Rail murmured, and I felt the strength of his resolve bolster me as it intertwined with the burgeoning defiance. As we broke from the assembled group in pairs, I could feel the time creeping upon us like a predator closing in, urging us toward our grim dance with fate. The moment stretched infinitely before us, a singularity of emotion as ours became intertwined, feeding off of one another's strength. The night swat was over New Morrow like an Inkai cloak as Rail and I moved through the shadows, navigating the corridors of various sectors. Our hearts pounded synchronically, flooding us with adrenaline as we approached the abandoned service tunnel beneath Sentinel Heights. This is it, Rail whispered, eyes glinting as they scanned our surroundings. Desolation surrounded the entrance, long-neglected walls, crumbling, mortar dust, cascading in thin plumes like ethereal smoke. If we maintain the stealth approach, we should be able to reach their access points before we engage in combat, right? Just follow my lead, I replied, feeling the spark of apprehension but steeling myself against the tide. We crept forward into the narrow darkness of the passage, the familiar camaraderie between us rejuvenating the urgency behind our mission. Tension coiled within us. To forge ahead, we needed to penetrate the heart of the enemy's stronghold, dismantling what they had built with relentless fervor, the very essence of our survival. Down the meandering tunnel, we followed the faint glow of circuitry, steadying ourselves against fading breaths that tautened into silence. Then came the moment when we reached it. Shaped doors sealed tight with mechanisms beyond our reckoning. A few moments shared lingering in the air as we prepared to execute our plan took form. Ready? I asked, feeling the weight of anticipation threading tightly in my gut. Rail nodded, determination flaring as he approached the control panel, fingers trembling with soft ferocity. Let's disable their systems, on my mark. The doors hissed as they began to unlock, groaning as though it bore the weight of the manifestation of our anguish. And when they opened, we were greeted with chaos, a vibrant nexus of machinery and commotion wreaking havoc within the chosen facility. Drones zoomed overhead, their sleek forms dancing across the metallic expanse like predatory birds in search of prey. Stay low, Rail instructed as we slipped inside, cloaked by shadows that struggled against the vibrancy of a brisk crime. We moved with calculated stealth, hearts beating as one to avoid detection. Suddenly, a commotion erupted nearby. A cacophony of warning lights flared relentlessly, casting hues of alarms upon us. They've triggered the signal, I gasped, realizing the scale of the diversion and the collective distraction thrust into effect. What do we do? Rail tensed, eyes darting between potential escape routes alongside moments unfolding faster than the chaos could contain. Focus on the central control unit, I commanded, adopting authority from the reserve of brilliance we housed within. If we can access that, we can disable the drones altogether. Our feet propelled forward, urgency surging with every heartbeat against the flow of uncertainty coursing through the facility. We entered a sweeping chamber, the dim lights revealing our objective, teetering with both peril and potential. Rail, here, I called, pointing at the main console pulsing with vibrantly coded circuits, the flicker chanting the rise of our intentions. As we approached, the air trembled with anticipation, and I could feel the weight of our hopes entwined in every breath. Together, we initiated the unlock sequence even as the sound of alarms surged through the air. Frantic voices of soldiers echoed from beyond, galvanized by the chaos erupting around us. The mechanism clicking into place reminded me that while choices could lead to ruin, fear would not dictate our path. With each rapid keystroke resulting in cascading blue lights, the console roared to life, reality flooding in as error codes began cascading across the screens like a tidal wave. The drones overhead whirred in confusion as the chaos of circuits started disrupting their communication signals. "Now, overload the feedback," Rail called, the fire of desperation igniting his words. In that heart-stopping moment, I pressed the final command, and my heart reverberated with the intensity of what lay before us. The resounding crash poured through the chamber. The system erupted, and an electric pulse carved through the facility like wildfire. The drones cascading one by one into a disarray of flashing lights and fading power. The tension was palpable as the ground trembled beneath our feet. The facility shuddered violently, revealing the crux of our burgeoning rebellion. We exchanged glances, the fiery, uncontainable spark between us igniting the belief that this was just the beginning. The others, Rail shouted, his eyes filled with raw determination. "They'll need our help. We can't stop here." We plunged forward into the maelstrom of chaos, reconnecting with hopes and dreams necessary to pave a new history for new morrow. In that moment, we were no longer simply fleeing from the shadows. We were redefining who we could be. As the alarms elevated, we emerged into the fray, a united force against the relentless tide. Our stories were forged together, and the echoes of ferocity resonated through every heartbeat. Together, amid the convergence of voices rising against the encroaching darkness, we stormed the path toward liberation, propelled by the sheer determination to reclaim life among the ruins. Hope blossomed in the face of despair as we fought with renewed vigor, wielding the strength bound not just by blood, but by an unbreakable bond, a drive that urged us onward. As our resistance surged into the tumult of night, I believed in the brilliance of our unity, the shimmering light guiding us toward a horizon filled with possibility. This was only the beginning. Part 5. The blitzkrieg of resolve ***. The chaos writhed around us like a living, breathing beast as we plunged deeper into the heart of the facility. Drones, disoriented and frantic from the feedback overload, spun in erratic patterns, sparking beams of pulsing energy illuminating the shadows that threatened to consume us. Each blast of light felt like a heartbeat of our rebellion, reverberating through every inch of the chamber. "Focus," I shouted, urgency clawing at my throat. Behind me, Rail plunged into a nearby corridor where shadows tangled with flickering lights, pulling me along like a current. We tore down the metallic passageway, narrowly dodging ricochets of bolts as robotic sentinels reoriented themselves and resumed their patrols. The hum of their propulsion filled the air, a synthetic hymn of relentless vigilance. Over there, Rail gestured toward a set of double doors at the end of the hall, just before a storm of drones blared their alarms, ascending like a hunting pack. We sprinted toward freedom, adrenaline coursing through us like fire igniting spirit. As we reached the door, I shoved Rail ahead of me, urgency breathing life into my instincts. "Get us through." He slammed his hand against the control panel. When the door hissed open, we bolted inside, skidding to a halt as we faced a sprawling command center. Monitors flickered, displaying feeds from across the city. The frantic scenes mapped out like a graphic novel, falling off the edge of reality. Each frame showing resistance and chaos entwined like dancers on the stage of a collapsing world. "This is it," Rail exclaimed, scanning the control hub. "If we can redirect their drone networks, we can bring down their entire operation." I felt the weight of his words settle around us, a tapestry of purpose woven with our determination. "You handle the drones, I'll set up the uplink. We can steer the revolt from here." He nodded, urgency translating into action as he raced toward the primary console, a massive array of glowing panels and holographic displays. I hurried to another workstation near a wall of connecting cables, my heart thundering as I began to access the central uplink. An overwhelming flood of information poured over me: codes, frequencies, encrypted communication channels brimming with the tantalizing taste of undeceived knowledge. "Rail," I called, breathless. "I need the access codes. We can override their systems right now." On it, his fingers danced against the keys, peeling the layers of security back, revealing pathways to strategic command that had long eluded us. "I'm almost there. Provide me with a strong buffer. We don't want their security team hunting us down while we're revealed." With my heart racing in syncopated rhythms, I quickly configured the uplink settings, creating a temporary firewall while Rail decoupled their primary defense mechanisms. Just as I initiated the upload, alarms blared overhead, our advantage slipping through our fingers once more. "Agara, speed it up," he shouted, glancing over his shoulder as drones swarmed toward our position. I gritted my teeth, tapping into the thread of calm buried beneath my anxiety, and released the command to open a back door into the system, the code sprinting across the screens like a cascading waterfall. "Done, you've got access." The console surged with energy, a bright wave pulsing throughout the command center. The monitors overhead flickered as updated data streams flowed into the systems Rail commandeered. "Come on," he muttered, fingers flying. The drones struck with precision, raining down volleys of plasma blasts that pulsed past us in sharp bursts. Shadows danced as we ducked and dodged, very much alive in the whirlwind of warfare. Rail's focus was unwavering, a singularity of purpose in the swirling storm. Almost there, just a few more seconds. In those moments, every heartbeat felt monumental, every breath a fragile promise. Even as destruction loomed closer, the flames of rebellion ignited within us tempests of purpose. I didn't just see Rail near me, I felt our bond intertwined, our destinies fused like metal and fire fighting the encroaching darkness. "Gara, now," Rail suddenly shouted, his voice slicing through the chaos like a sword. With a final swipe of his hand, the screens flickered ominously, spiraling through like tendrils of light-absorbing shadows. All at once, the wall of defenses cracked. Launched commands began appearing. Drone systems faltering, recoding into an infinite loop of feedback. "The gateway is open," Rail yelled exuberantly, though the sound of drones blaring echoed menacingly around us. "And now it's time to unleash the storm. Let's move." I couldn't contain my exhilaration as we charged out of the command center, our path cut free from despair by the intangible thread of rebellion woven by our defiance. The alarm still blared, but hope surged over us, buoying our spirits like an unquenchable flame. As we re-entered the main corridor, it transformed into a battleground, a tapestry of resistance illuminated by erratic sparks, filled with echoes of struggle and the fervor of defiance. We raced alongside resistance fighters, old and young, battle, worn and fresh, all bound by a singular ideal: freedom. "Keep pushing forward," Talia shouted, rallying a formidable band as we carved through the advancing waves. "We're breaking through." The tension electrified the air, sparks flying as energy coursed through tired limbs, urging us on, fighting against the waiting shadows. The drones hovered overhead, their predatory eyes casting long shadows, but we pressed forward. "Gara, Rail, there's a stairwell at the end," a fellow fighter called out. "We need to reach the roof for extraction." "I'll cover you," Rail shouted, finding the weight of armor perched on his shoulders, a shield against the relentless drone fire. I nodded, realizing the gravity of our situation. The roof would be our only chance for escape. "Go, I'll catch up," I urged, regrouping the last remnants of my collected strength as I prepared to charge against the swarm. "No, we stick together," Rail insisted, his voice a fierce light. And in that moment, I couldn't help but feel the bittersweet pull of fate. There, amidst the chaos overflown with uncertainty, the real truth resonated. The light of our combined spirit endured under the weight of calamity. Together, we charged through the rubble, accessing parts of ourselves we had yet to uncover as the collective grew stronger against the relentless tide. We surged forward, hearts pounding in unison, using laughter and defiance as our armor against despair. Through the chaos, I could feel the promise of dawn breaking, a flicker in the horizon despite the storm raging all around us. Victory lay not just in the fight, but in the very existence of our bond, the unquenchable spirit to rise and resist against being erased. Bursting finally through the stairwell doors, we climbed the rickety metal steps, ascending toward the roof, breathless yet resolute. Each footfall echoed a promise to seize the future, every heartbeat becoming a thread wrapped tightly around our vision of reclamation. And as we burst through the last door, sunlight washed over us, illuminating the fractured world below, revealing the collective potential that lay within the shadows. No, they're here. A voice cried out as the drone swooped down like a storm of harbingers descending on the horizon. Rail and I readied our makeshift weapons, adrenaline surging through our veins as we focused on the oncoming storm. Our allies joined us, ranks forming. A coalition of courage against the kinetic energy of encroaching dread. Prepare for impact. Italier shouted, wielding defiance like a hero's blade, the shaft of hope wrought from our struggles. This was our moment. The convergence we had forged together, entwined in purpose as resilient as coiled metal springs ready to unravel. It pushed back as one. Remember why we started this fight. I yelled over the tumult, the echoes of our wrath clashing against drone engines. Symbols of oppression demanded to be reckoned with. Drones buzzed like angry hornets, but we stood our ground. A wave of rebellion surging against their oppressive shadow. In that instant, the clash of willpower ignited, illuminating the storm like fireworks bursting in triumphant, confounding beauty against the darkened backdrop of despair. Each blast from our defenses siphoned into the ultimate gesture of hope. A flood of ferocity, an uprising cultivated through shared heartbeats, woven into a tapestry of resilience. And even as we jumped into the fray, we understood. Victory was never just on the horizon. It resided in every moment we dared to emerge from the shadows, an act of rebellion that echoed down to the very core of humanity's essence. The battle raged, a culmination of our fight against fate as we stood united, vibrant against encroaching despair, entwining our destinies toward a dawn of reclamation, with hope igniting like wildfire through the hearts that would not yield. Emerging from the throes of turmoil, I realized the price of our fight for freedom could reshape history, could carry us beyond the horizon into shattered memories forged anew. With arms intertwined, standing on the precipice of change, we charged into the light together, fierce and unafraid, ready to claim our story and that of our future from the ashes of despair. And as we did, a revolution sparked beneath us, a defiance refusing to crumble, standing on the very shoulders ignited in fire. Together, no longer mere shadows, we would become the architects of a new light, the dawn of resistance riding high over the ruins of the old. And thus, our collective voice echoed through the long-forgotten echoes of New Morrow, an unyielding tapestry against the dark. And as we threw ourselves into that storm, I knew we would rise again, exceeding the depths of despair toward a new chapter written in the light of a rekindled hope. Part 6. The Reckoning ***. The skyline of New Morrow burned brightly as we stood atop the facility, a mix of chaos and vibrant rebellion swirling around us like an unstoppable tide. The drones, once relentless predators stalking their prey, now floundered beneath our unyielding resolve, falling like paper birds in a raging storm. Each blast from our makeshift weapons sent a jolt of exhilaration through the ranks of our resistance, a rising chorus of defiant roars igniting the air. "Stay focused," Talier shouted amidst the palpable chaos, his voice slicing through the noise of war. We were more than a unit. We had become a living, breathing entity, pulsing with the shared heartbeat of our aspirations. Humanity had gathered within our ranks, a collective yearning to reclaim a future that had seemed all but lost. As the drones whirred overhead, their sensors now desperate and erratic, I caught sight of Rail moving fluidly among our comrades, the flick of his wrist signaling our team to push forward. Unyielding determination radiated off of him as he delivered precise strikes, disarming the mechanical beasts with deft movements. each moment a testament to how far we had come from our desperate flight through the ruins. I held my breath, adrenaline coursing through my body as I joined the fierce, limitless energy surrounding us, the flames of revolution stoked by our collective spirit. Performance of our previous lives surged forward while we battled against everything that sought to extinguish our light. Every blast, every heartbeat echoed the words our people had long tattooed deep into their spirits. We would reclaim our world. A drone careened toward us, its sensors flashing ominously as it locked on. I lifted my arm, steadying the makeshift weapon, and pulled the trigger. The energy pulse surged forth, colliding spectacularly against the drone's frame, ripping through its circuitry like a charged bullet smashing into glass. The drone exploded with a blinding flash, splattering fragments like stars bursting across the sky. I could feel several eyes on me, and I smiled in that moment. A fierce fire of hope surged. Then came the sound, distant, rising like a storm. Vehicles, an advancing chapter of our rebellion harbored on the edge, descending upon the facility. My heart hammered in rhythm with the echoing commotion as scout vehicles from our allied factions flooded our position, bringing supplies, reinforcements, and salvation. Keep pushing. Reinforcements are on their way. Rail called out as he carved a path through the chaos. As the vehicles drove past us, their headlights sliced through the darkness, aiming directly at the heart of the operations. One by one, our resistance fought against the tide, disrupting communications, disabling drones, while the rumbling advance swelled into a powerful wave. This was our moment, the convergence of effort finally swaying in our favor. Just as I turned to rail, adrenaline throwing shadows across our faces, the ground below shuddered. The facility rumbled with the force of an impending thunderstorm. I skidded to a halt, eyes widening. Rail, what's happening? It's the core reactor. They must be activating a self-destruct mechanism. He shouted, clenching his fist, fury and fear intermingling. We need to hit the central control room and disable it before it's too late. Then let's move. I yelled back, adrenaline flooding through me as I brushed aside dread. With renewed purpose, we charged into the depths of the facility, weaving through smoke and chaos. The shadows danced like phantoms, a deadly ballet we were determined to reverse. In the fray, we pushed forward, a narrow corridor leading us into the heart of the reactor chamber. Alarms blared, shaking the walls with urgency as the structure threatened to implode under the pressure of our rebellion. Go, 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 Tallier bellowed, an unwavering force at our backs. Over here, Rail pointed to a flickering screen displaying countdown numbers. I leaped forward, frantic, eyes racing. We had seconds, perhaps minutes at most. Rail, I need access codes now. I called, my voice pressing against the tide of panic creeping up my throat. I'm trying, just hold tight. He worked feverishly, fingers flying across the console while I glanced anxiously at the countdown climbing ominously. My skin prickled with awareness as the seconds ticked away, the exclamations of my comrades echoing like distant echoes battling against a rising gale. Then, suddenly, the countdown froze. Got it, Rail declared, his voice fierce and triumphant, as he typed in the commands to disable the core system. I held my breath, the sound of time grinding down against the urgency surrounding us. Would we make it? Keep an eye out. I pleaded while Rail continued typing, but then a loud crash shook the chamber, heavy footsteps, driven and nefarious. We were not alone. Two of the streamlined human soldiers stormed in, armed to the teeth, eyes concealed behind reflective visors. They had been coordinating the defensive perimeter, and now they were to confront us. Hold your position, get away from that console. One of the soldiers barked, weapon raised, mechanical arms trembling with energy, rooted in authority. Rail shifted into a defensive stance. No, you don't understand, we're disabling the core. He clamored, urgency fanning the flames. And we'll see you die before that happens. The soldier fired, bolts crackling through the air, the sound jolting through my veins. With instinct and rage igniting, I hurled myself behind Rail, providing cover as chaos erupted. The two soldiers pressed aggressively, bolts igniting the walls near us, sparks flying dangerously close. Rail now, I urged, panic threading through me. Every second felt like an eternity. I just need 15 more seconds, he shouted, voice strained with desperation. I could hear the countdown blaring in my ears, the weight of our rebellion hanging impossibly in the balance. Enough, I yelled, feeling raw resolve like lightning coursing through me. I took a step forward, determined and unwavering. This has gone far enough. Your paths of tyranny end here. With that, I raised my weapon, aimed with determined focus against our aggressors. You dare? The soldier seethed, fury twisting his features. The room tensed, both humans locking uneasy gazes, as I unleashed an energy pulse in a single, charged motion. The bolt surged forth, slamming into the soldier's arm. He staggered backward, caught off balance. At that moment, Rail synced his final commands and the console exploded with energy. A wave surged through the room, a backlash pulsing against the walls. Let's go, Rail shouted as the chaos unfurled, and with no time to spare, we darted toward the console, footsteps echoing with the weight of all we had fought against. We had to escape while we still could, the facility's core now sputtering and failing beneath us, a testament to our fragile breath. Slipping past the injured soldiers, we clawed our way back to the corridor. The ground began trembling beneath us, a roar of impending destruction tantalizingly close. Run, we're losing it, I gasped, fueled by desperation. Bursting out into the main expanse, we were met with the cacophony of battle, a convergence of defiance palpable in the air. Allies fended off drones while vision shifted towards the rooftop extraction our way out. Drones approaching from above, one of the fighters shouted, pointing upward as mechanical wings roared overhead. My heart pounded as the battleground erupted with violence. Keep moving, Talia urged, urging everyone toward the back of the facility as chaos swelled exponentially. The throbbing heart of our resistance carved a path as we barreled towards freedom. Each step a rebellion, each move defiant, a path forged by those who would not submit. Rails skidded to a halt. The rooftop was near. We need to accelerate our exit. This place won't hold for long. I could see the roof above, a distant horizon promising safety. Together, Talia called as we merged with our united efforts. It charged like an orchestra resonating against despair's dissonance. We raced up the last flight of stairs as alarms shrieked behind us, urging shadows to chase. I felt the pulse of our collective determination, like a heartbeat merging into the core. There was no turning away. Retreat was not an option. Climbing over the last step, the ceiling opened before us. The sheer expanse of sky stretched as sunlight spilled over the brilliance, blindingly radiant. Over here, a fellow fighter shouted, gesturing toward a moving firm. A transport craft, its engines roaring defiantly into flames, our salvation against the looming darkness. Get us out of here, Rail cried, mingling urgency with frantic hope as the extraction craft swung around, its outstretched arms ready to gather us within. Saddle up, Talia called as we boarded. I could see the wings flutter above like great beasts eager for the taste of liberty. One by one, we leaped aboard, wounds and battles painted across our battered attire. An improbable family forged through rebellion and bravery against insurmountable odds. The extraction craft raced upward, leaving the battle behind. I glanced below as the facility exploded in a shimmering cascade of lights. An eruption cascading across the sky, a proof of our defiance, the true reckoning born of ash and struggle. And this is just the beginning, I murmured, breathless as the realization settled deep within the dawn rising in our hearts, not just for survivors, but for a future yet unwritten. As we soared into the clouds, Rail turned to me, eyes steadfast with resolve. For every moment spent facing darkness, we will rise again. Together, we will forge a future. A world illuminated not by the glow of despair, but by the fire of resilience. Together, we would carry our story forward, resilient and proud. A single strand woven not just in the fabric of New Morrow, but in the unsteady heart of humanity itself. A revelation waiting in the promise of dawn. And from the ashes of chaos, we would emerge a new pioneers igniting the light toward an unfathomable horizon. The reckoning had begun, yet we would rise again. Shadows would tremble, for hope had taken flight, entwined among our souls like an unstoppable force. The night was far from over, but as we rocketed into the sky, our hearts beat anew, a resolute promise whispering the truth. We would reclaim our world together. Our rebellion was just beginning, and as dawn spread its fiery wings on the horizon, so too would we. With the first rays of light emerging upon us, we became the architects of our fate, soaring onward towards new beginnings, the unified anthem of our resolve growing ever stronger. And thus we would rise again. Part 7. The dawn of reclamation. The sun cast fiery tendrils across the sky as the transport craft whirred through the remnants of New Morrow, its engines vibrating with a powerful assurance. Inside, the atmosphere shifted an electric hum overshadowing our exhaustion, a call to arms echoing in the very core of our beings. Faces that had once shown fear were now alight with a burgeoning hope, an undeniable testament to the transformation we had collectively embraced. As we sailed above the debris of our fractured past, the urban landscape morphed into a vast tapestry of scars and resilience. We had thrust ourselves into the heart of an unfurling revolution. We were the adrenaline surging through faded veins, the embers ignited against the ashes, and the whisper of a new dawn that sought to reclaim our world. My pulse quickened as I recalled the fierce encounters that had shaped our present. Each moment of struggle was now crystallized into a purpose that bound us together. "Where are we heading?" I called to Tallier, who was seated calmly at the front, surveying our surroundings with fierce determination as he directed the pilot. "Reported resistance safe houses. We'll meet other factions to coordinate our next move," Tallier replied, his intensity unwavering, eyes fixed ahead. "We've all heard the stories of our domination, but now we can seize what is rightfully ours." A sense of belonging enveloped me, a flame ignited from within, fueled by camaraderie and unwavering resolve. Rail, seated beside me, kept glancing toward the horizon, where the light kissed the debris, his expression resolute, a silent reminder of the choices we had made and the realities awaiting us. "This is really happening, Gara," he said softly, his voice barely rising above the roar of the engines. "We're building something from the ground up. We have to be sure it's different this time." I nodded. My heart resonated with the truth held within his words. "We will be different. We'll ensure that everyone has a voice. They won't stomp out our light again." The thrill of our mission pulsed through my veins, igniting the spirits that had been crushed for far too long. We could change the narrative. We had the power to intertwine our futures with hope instead of despair. Out the window, the landscape began to shift. The tarnished remnants of New Morrow fell away, making space for vast stretches of wilderness, greenery defiant against the destruction that loomed nearby. It was a surreal sight, nature returning to reclaim what humanity had so carelessly wrought. I shivered at the thought that we were returning to nature not merely in lament but in defiance, a rehearsal of life rekindling, illustrating the indomitable spirit of existence. As we continued to ascend, anticipation surged. "We will meet allies in the next few clicks," Tallier interjected, cutting through our thoughts like a blade, intensity lighting his expression. "The assembly operates under a strict network. We'll strategize and reclaim territories that have long lay dormant under the heel of tyranny." As the transport dipped, our destination emerged in view. An old industrial complex, long abandoned and overgrown with the remnants of flora reclaiming the presence. It stood resolute against the horizon, rallying around a core of sturdy determination reminiscent of our resilience. "Welcome to the Citadel," Tallier announced proudly as we touched down. The lift doors opened slowly, and we stepped onto a platform surrounded by their makeshift encampment. Combatants, engineers, and old faces from our past congregated around a central mess area, animatedly sharing their stories, crafting defenses, and strategizing new offensives. A low murmur stirred up energy among them, a pulse of newfound connection wrapping us in unwavering determination. As the team disembarked, we were enveloped by familiarity. Smiles of recognition and resolution welcomed us into the fold. Together, behind the fortified barricades of the Citadel, we were united in a singular quest: to demolish the remnants of oppression and reclaim our identities. Gara, Rail, shouted a familiar face amidst the crowd. It was Ilara, the brilliant engineer who had once constructed some of the tech used against us. "I'm so glad to see you both. We've heard whispers of your exploits. We escaped the heart of the human encroachments," Rail replied, adrenaline still coursing through him. "We've connected with dozens now, ready to rise against the tyranny." Finally, Ilara said, her eyes gleaming with hope, "It's time we stand together, not just as individuals, but as a collective force ready to take back our world in defiance." As we settled into the citadel, the atmosphere transformed into a bustling hive. Tensions morphed into focus as our plans coalesced into cascades of determination, a movement urging us to reclaim what was rightfully ours. Strategic discussions filled the air, a palpable surge of energy swirling around the gathering where each voice mattered, an orchestra of defiance blending into one harmonious force. Days quickly morphed into their ritualistic routines as we dug into preparations, painstakingly forging blueprints of assaulting their strongholds while crafting messages reverberating through our networks. The hum of machinery mixed with the crackle of plans rippling outwards, a vision of unity blossoming amid the remnants. "We need to establish communication channels broadly," I proposed one afternoon, my voice steady but eager among warriors shrouded in attention. "The more territories we connect, the more far-reaching our influence becomes." "Excellent idea," Italier nodded, excitement threading through him. "I've heard of an old satellite station tucked away past the remnants of the power grid system. If we commandeer it, we can amplify our signals." "This could become our web." Rail's eyes sparkled. "Then that becomes our next mission. Ambushing resources held by the humans while establishing robust lines of communication that empower the small factions scattered across the citadel. Get everyone on the same page again." As we shared ideas and forged paths forward, a fire ignited, pushing back the shadows of doubt that had burdened us. Hope surged like a tide against the remnants of despair, our vision crystallizing into something beautiful, a world we longed to reclaim battered but never broken. Weeks sped forth, a dizzying amalgamation of fears fought and hopes ignited. Each day was a collision of unity, our collective journey shaping the essence of who we once were while propelling us toward new horizons. Resistance burgeoned through the city as whispers of our resurgence rippled far and wide, reaching disparate corners long deprived of a voice. The final piece to our connection emerged, the night stretching its fingers across the sky as we gathered, anticipation billowing through the air. Thousands of eyes turned toward Talier as he stood before us, the flickering light bathing him in innocence and determination. "Tonight, we unite our factions and prepare for the final offensive action," he proclaimed, his voice unwavering, resonating deep in our hearts. "We will reclaim our freedom, not as individuals, but as a network bound together in celebration." A roar erupted, galvanizing those gathered, a collective cry seeping down to the very marrow of our being. Hope wrapped around us as the faces around burned bright, lifted by a flame that had been kindled within, an echoing pact that spread against all discouragement. "Tonight, we do not just fight for survival. We reclaim our lives," I added, stepping up beside Talier, my heart pounding in rhythm with the rising tide of anticipation and exhilaration. "We reclaim our identity, redefine our existence together." Emboldened by unity, we poured forth into the heart of new morrow, our ranks sweeping courageously through the embrace of flickering lights, our banners raised high, and determination flowing through every vein. We surged into the city, the pulse of resistance igniting a vibrant chorus of empowerment as we carved through civilization's remnants. This was transcendent. This would be our reckoning. And thus, amid the violent bombardment of the past still whispering through the air like tendrils of smoke, we emerged. Fear replaced by belief, battles won fueled by relentless hope. And as we stood amidst the rubble, where a glimmering dawn ignited the horizon, we recognized our true purpose. The reclamation awaited us. The battles brewing on the horizon were our symphony of defiance, the ascent of reclamation about to take flight against the skyline of a new dawn. This was not merely an uprising, this was a renaissance of our collective destiny. Together we would rise and become architects of a transformed world, bound by unity, illuminated in the brilliance of our shared resolve. A promise carved into time, asterisk, asterisk, we would reclaim all that was lost. Asterisk, 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 Part 8. The dawn of reclamation, asterisk, asterisk, the night was alive with a collective fervor. The streets of New Morrow pulsating with a wild energy as throngs of resistance fighters swarmed the pavements, our boots drumming against the fractured concrete like a dark anthem of hope. Word had spread through our networks, the factions displaced no longer felt alone, bound by the forged bonds of an unyielding revolution. The air crackled with electric anticipation, a symphony underscored by the shared heartbeat of our united struggle. Tallier stood at the forefront of our ranks, a figure radiating fierce determination, illuminated by the scattered sparks of energy permeating the atmosphere. "Tonight is our night," he shouted, voice rising over the roar of the assembled multitude. "We reclaim New Morrow from the ashes of tyranny and oppression." A roar of approval surged among us, the sound reverberating like thunder against the shattered skyline. Families, friends, and former strangers joined hands, shoulders pressing together in solidarity. We've witnessed their brutality. We've faced heartache and despair, but this ends here, Tallier continued, the fire in his eyes igniting the flames of our purpose, fueling the very air we breathed. I felt the swell of emotion. Every beating heart surged with purpose, echoing the sentiments of resilience and defiance. To reclaim our world was to affirm that hope could thrive even amid darkness. Rail stood beside me, his expression resolute, a kindling fire burning brightly within his gaze. "Well, are we ready to take back our future?" he yelled, catching the crescendo of our chorus, his confidence becoming a beacon of light in a realm that felt perilously close to obscurity. "Yes," we responded, a sea of voices merged into one. "Let's move," Tallier ordered, and with that, we surged into the heart of the city, a relentless wave of resolve washing through the remnants of debris-riddled streets. We took an old route, favoring the shadows as we advanced towards the critical stronghold that housed the central operations of the drones. Each step bore the weight of countless hopes, dreams woven into the very fabric of our movements, a promise that today would be a turning point etched into the annals of our story. As we approached the heavily fortified compound, the architecture loomed oppressive, stark metal and glass threatening to loom and consume our aspirations. "Keep low, move quickly," Tallier instructed as we fanned out, drawing closer to the perimeter with stealth forged from an unyielding desire for liberation. "Remember our goal, disrupt their command, siphon access from the satellite, and strike decisively. Every heartbeat counts." And my heart raced as we set up our positions, adrenaline coursing through my veins before each of us melted seamlessly into the shadows. Days melted into weeks, planning and strategy swirling together, the nights solidifying into a tapestry of defiance we had sewn with threads tightly bound to every lost soul we dared to reclaim. "We are the future," I whispered, the truth coursing through me. We're no longer swept aside by history's crushing weight. Just as I instinctively turned to glance at Rail, the sound of approaching footsteps jolted us into action. "Prepare," Tallier urged, moving ahead toward the runnable dark space. "It's now or never," the squad fanned out, weapons poised, hearts synchronized as we made our move toward the entrance. A thin stream of shadows threading between searchlights as they swept ahead. At the last moment, we sprang from the fringes of the night, arms moving in concert as the churning energy within us compelled us onward. We found ourselves entwined with our purpose, a singular entity against the machinery of oppression. As the heavy blast doors swung open in a locked display of confidence born from desperation, we plunged deeper into the operations headquarters. The air became thick with the stench of ozone and malice, yet hope clung to us like armor, resilient and unwavering. "Hold the line," Tallier shouted, leading us inside the core chamber, the heart built to sustain the machinery that had feasted upon our fears. Monitors flickered, their displays saturated with red alerts as drones swarmed within, their mechanical wings thrumming like an unsettling chorus. But we were unrelenting, fueled by the fire in our eyes and the cries of those who had fallen, their indefatigable spirits surging behind us. "Access the command terminal," Urail called, pointing toward a console at the center of the room, relaying commands to the oncoming legions. "Gara, go." I dashed toward the terminal, fingers flying across the interface as I fought to override the systems, sweat trickling down my brow like raindrops nurturing the earth. The countdown was nearly upon us. Every input mattered consistently. My heart thudded against time itself. Just as I initiated the sequence to commandeer control, the walls vibrated around us, an explosion trembling from outside as the battle unfolded. "They're counterattacking. Hold your positions," Tallier ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. Suddenly, a resounding crash echoed as blasts erupted on the exterior, deafening the frenzy in the inner chamber. The drones whirled above us, sensors flashing menacingly, and then the silhouette of a squad of armored soldiers stormed in. A dark wave of force intent on suppressing our defiance. "No, they can't," Urail roared, but they pushed forward relentlessly, armed with dark authority, their heavy weapons prepared to strike. "We must hold the line," Tallier bellowed, determination resolute as the soldiers advanced. "If we lose our momentum now, everything we've fought for collapses." The weight of their presence suffocated us, yet I felt the unyielding spirit rising once more. Flashes of fire rang through our collective consciousness. I fired, watching an enemy soldier fall back as Rail reloaded behind me. "Keep them contained. This is our moment," Rail called, an echoing rallying cry igniting fervor within my heart once again. The tumult transformed into a choreographed dance. Every interaction not simply a clash, but a conflict orchestrated with defiance and solidarity. As the soldiers tried to close in on us, we moved fluidly, practiced in the steps of liberation. A storytelling experience forged through every ounce of engagement. Rail surged forward, eyes blazing with courage as he incapacitated another soldier with unexpected deftness, directing our focus back toward the objective. "Gara, we need that command terminal now." His breathless urgency wrapped around me, igniting my resolve to push through the encroaching shadows. With a renewed sense of purpose, I locked my focus on the terminal, fingers flying as I delved deeper. The countdown lingered, each agonizing moment fanning the flames of desperation. I knew we had to act decisively. The stakes were too high. "Just a few more seconds, hold them off," I called back, heart racing, bracing myself as I struggled against the opposing odds. The soldiers pressed against us like a wave, threatening to engulf everything we stood for. Drones hummed overhead, becoming an extension of the soldiers' regimentation, a menacing reminder of what we sought to dismantle. Just then, the command console finally lit up with the signals I sought, resonating like a call to arms. "Yes," I gasped, adrenaline spiking as data streamed onto the screens. The layouts of the region unfurled, revealing supply lines, drone deployment centers, access points. It was everything. "I have control. Everyone, focus on the command center. Push them back." The ensuing clash transformed into a frenzied melee, a powerful hybrid of resistance unfurling, challenging the very essence of oppression. I could feel the shift in our dynamics, the convergence of resolve solidifying against the relentless tide. We would not falter. As I aligned the command input with Rail and Tallier by my side, we activated the emergency flood, ballooning our signals to override their communication systems. Drones began descending from above, line after line, misfiring as our lines of energy met theirs. A chaotic distortion of light signaling a rebellion. "Disengage, roll back," Tallier shouted, cutting through the chaos with undeniable authority. "Keep pushing, we will reclaim our home." A light rippled through the dimensions, dispersing shadows caught upon our determined resolve, scattering every doubt until we had claimed control. All circuits connected, fueled by the shared pulse of resistance binding us together. I unleashed my voice amid the chaos, emboldened by the fire ignited within. This is our turn, together. The collective energy surged, drones rocking against our rallying cry, their sensors spinning wildly as the rebel energy swelled across the facility. Each blast and collision echoed triumph over despair, cascading echoes of our laughter and extent, manifesting hope down to the very marrow of our united spirits. And then, as the ground shook ferociously, a realization struck me. It wasn't merely a matter of survival. This was the birthing of identity, reclaiming our recognizable selves amid adversity's darkness. The command center is collapsing, the rail shouted suddenly, and I turned to see the monitors flashing amber, warning signals asserting themselves like fiery lifelines, threatening rupture. We need to breach before it detonates. Quick, to the extraction point, Talia screamed, merging our voices into one throbbing resonance. We dashed toward the exit, eyes focused on the light ahead, the promise of liberation lighting our path. Pushing through the turmoil, we navigated the tumultuous chamber, crashing through debris and broken fragments, weaving between the treasures buried from a forgotten history, a forgetting I now lamented as we emerged resilient anew. The entrance glowed like a beacon drawing us home, and we poured into the outside world, sunlight flooding our senses as we clambered toward the extraction craft drawn near. Breathless, we stumbled onto the vessel, and with urgency awakening every fiber of our being, we boarded just as the system rumbled dangerously behind us. "Get us out, now," I called out, scrambling aboard. "Hold on tight," the pilot shouted back, firing the thrusters as the engine roared into life. We shot forward, and as the craft soared, a thunderous explosion erupted behind us. A kaleidoscope of blinding colors erupted in the air. The fortress that had contained our fears now crumbled beneath its own weight, dispatched into the oblivion of our tenacity. We emerged, soaring through the sky, the wreckage of oppression, becoming a distant memory. Our ties to the past intertwined with newfound resolutions. As we glided away from the crumbling spectacle, the gravity of our journey began to settle, gripping the aching bones of our existence while lighting an inner spark of renewal. Adrenaline coursed through my veins, hollowing out feelings of fear, anguish, but nurturing a fierce flame of devotion. A rekindling spirit liberated amid the thread of shared struggle. "We did it!" Rael exclaimed amid the rapture, turning to share in the embrace of those closest to him, awe reflected in every exhale. The faces around him seemed washed in a pale twilight, marveled by the enormity of possibilities swirling ahead. Yet, as I looked into the fluttering reflection of the horizon, I realized that our fight was far from over. We had merely gained ground in a war that beckoned liberation. United in resolve, we had only begun to unveil the identity we yearned to foster, the tapestry weaving amongst the flames of new beginnings. "Today marks the unraveling of history," Talia declared, his voice rich in authority, "but our fight is ongoing. Now, let us unify every faction toward a new purpose, a world built on collaboration, remembrance, and hope." The thrill in that moment was electrifying. Together, we would carve paths yet unwritten, a world spun from the echoes of laughter and fierce defiance. As Rael leaned closer to me, the air around us crackling with the electricity of change, I clasped his hand tight, strength flooding through our union. "This is only the beginning," I murmured, and in that instant, we became a vibrant spirit morning light breaking upon the horizon of rebirth, a pledge echoing promise into eternity. We would transcend our anguish, reclaim our world, and shine bright amid the shadows that had once cloaked us. We would rise together, building a new future, casting aside the shackles of yesterday, emerging victorious against the twilight, reborn into a dawn bright with promise. We would embrace our fate with open arms. Hand in hand, we would tread upon the fragile thread of dreams worth embracing. A radiant emergence of souls intertwined, the phoenix born anew across the tapestry of existence. The sun kissed the skyline of our shared destiny, aglow in a fervent surge of hope and resistance, as we took flight into the tiers of light embracing infinity. Together, we embarked on this long, anticipated journey toward reclamation, forever bound by the threads that had once woven us together. The fabric of our hearts entwined amidst vigor, purpose, and freedom. In that infinite expanse, we became bright shadows forever liberated. And as the dawn broke, casting a golden sheen upon the world, we embraced the heralding light. A new day rising through the grip of memory, the hope of perseverance lighting our path forward. We had risen from the ashes. We had reclaimed our world, daring to cast aside shadows toward an unfathomable future.